The rain was falling hard that Tuesday night when Leonardo Ferreira parked his black Mercedes in front of the gate of the municipal park. His hands were trembling on the steering wheel. Once again, he had left the empty mansion to cry away from the eyes of the servants. 6 months had passed since the accident. 6 months since he lost Amanda. 6 months since the world lost all its color. Leonardo was the owner of the largest mining company in the region. At 42 years old, he had everything money could buy. Imported cars. A mansion with 12 bedrooms. A bank account with more zeros than he could count. But none of that mattered anymore. The empty chair at the dinner table screamed louder than any professional success. He walked to his usual bench, beneath the old tree, in the darkest corner of the park. He sat down soaked, without caring. The tears mixed with the rain on his face. No one frequented that place late at night. It was perfect for a rich man to fall apart in peace. That was when he heard the voice. "Are you hungry too, like me?" Leonardo lifted his head, startled. In front of him stood a boy, no more than 7 years old. Torn clothes, dirty with mud. Messy hair. Bare feet. In his arms, he carried a faded teddy bear, missing one ear and patched all over its body. The boy looked at him with big, curious eyes, without any fear. "What?" Leonardo wiped his face quickly, trying to hide it. "Hungry. Are you crying because you're hungry?" The boy tilted his head to the side. "I cry sometimes when my belly hurts a lot. I thought rich adults cried because of that too." Leonardo was left speechless. How could he explain to a child that there are hungers no food can satisfy? That there are emptinesses no amount of money can fill? "What's your name?" Leonardo asked, looking more closely at the boy. "Pedro. And this here is Duke." He lifted the teddy bear. "He used to be my dad's. It's all that's left of him." "All that's left? Where are your parents, Pedro?" "My dad died when I was 4. He was a security guard. He got shot protecting a store. My mom, she couldn't handle the sadness. She went to heaven too, 3 months ago." Pedro said this with a disturbing calm, as if he were talking about the weather. Leonardo felt a tightness in his chest. That child had lost everything, and even so he was there, standing, worrying about a stranger crying in the park. "And where do you live now?" Pedro pointed to a dark corner of the park, where Leonardo could make out some stacked cardboard boxes. "There. Me and Duke. We manage. Sometimes people give food. Sometimes they don't. But we always have each other." At that moment, something broke inside Leonardo. He looked at that thin boy, with torn clothes and injured feet, and saw something he had lost a long time ago. Hope. Resilience. Life. "Pedro, did you have dinner today?" The boy shook his head no. "Not since yesterday morning. A lady gave me bread. I shared it with Duke." He smiled. "He doesn't really eat, but I pretend he does. That way he doesn't get sad." Leonardo stood up. The rain kept falling, but he didn't feel it anymore. He took off his jacket and placed it over Pedro's shoulders. It was far too big, almost like a cape. "Come on. You're going to have dinner with me today. A real meal." "Really for real? With meat?" Pedro's eyes lit up. "With meat. With rice. With everything you want." For the first time in 6 months, Leonardo felt something other than constant pain. It wasn't happiness yet. But it was a beginning. A tiny spark of purpose. As they walked toward the car, Pedro held his hand with confidence. The small, cold hand inside his large one. Leonardo looked down and saw the boy smiling, protecting Duke from the rain with the jacket. "Mr. Leonardo?" Pedro looked up. "Thank you. It had been a long time since someone was kind to me." Leonardo swallowed hard. He couldn't answer. He just squeezed the boy's hand tighter. He didn't know it yet, but that meeting under the rain would change everything. For both of them. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Leave in the comments what you've thought so far and which city or country you're watching from. Your participation means a lot. The black Mercedes left the parking lot carrying 2 hungry passengers. One hungry for food. The other for meaning. both about to discover that sometimes the cure for our pain lies in healing the pain of another person. The mansion was silent when Leonardo opened the main door. Pedro stopped at the entrance, mouth open in awe. His eyes scanned the enormous hall, the crystal chandelier, the marble staircase. He pressed Duke against his chest. "Is this where you live? Alone?" Leonardo nodded, feeling the weight of that word. Alone. 12 empty bedrooms. Corridors without the echo of laughter. A house that was only structure, without a soul. "Come on, you need to take a hot bath first. Then we'll eat." He led Pedro to one of the guest rooms. He prepared the bathtub, laid out clean towels, separated clothes that had belonged to him when he was a child, kept out of pure nostalgia. While Pedro bathed, Leonardo went down to the kitchen. It had been months since he had cooked. After Amanda died, he only picked at whatever the cook left prepared. But that night, something awakened inside him. He prepared rice, beans, steak with onions, French fries, salad. A feast. 40 minutes later, Pedro came down the stairs completely transformed. Clean, combed hair, loose but comfortable clothes, feet bandaged. He was still carrying Duke, now clean as well. "I've never taken a hot bath before," Pedro said, his eyes still full of wonder. "Does the water come out warm whenever you want?" Leonardo smiled sadly. "Whenever I want." They sat at the table. Pedro looked at the amount of food as if he were facing a treasure. He began to eat slowly, savoring every bite. Leonardo only watched, absent-mindedly stirring his own food. "Why do you cry in the park?" Pedro asked suddenly, his mouth still full. Leonardo sighed. "I lost someone very important. My wife. Her name was Amanda." "Did she go to heaven too?" "She did." Pedro chewed thoughtfully. "My mom used to say that the people we love never really go away. They stay here." He touched his own chest. "In our heart. Is that true?" Leonardo felt his eyes burn. "I wish I could believe that, Pedro." "You should believe it. Because I feel my mom here every day. When I talk to Duke, it's like she's talking to me through him. She tells me I'm strong. That I'll be okay." That child was 7 years old and carried a wisdom that Leonardo, with all his life experience, had lost somewhere along the way. "You are very brave, Pedro." "I'm not. I'm scared every night. Scared someone will hurt me. Scared of getting sick. Scared of forgetting my mother's face." Pedro wiped his eyes quickly. "But Duke helps me be brave. He's my best friend." Leonardo looked at the battered teddy bear on the chair beside him. Poorly done patches, stuffing coming out in some spots, that missing ear. But to Pedro, it was the most precious object in the world. "You know, Pedro, I also have something from Amanda. Something that reminds me of her every day." "What?" Leonardo stood up and went to the shelf. He returned with a framed photo. Amanda smiling, radiant, one hand over her still barely noticeable belly. She was pregnant when the accident happened. Just 2 weeks. We hadn't even told anyone yet. Pedro held the photo carefully, as if it were too fragile. "She was beautiful. She looks kind. She was the kindest person I ever knew." "So you didn't lose just her. You lost the baby too." Leonardo nodded, unable to speak. Pedro handed the photo back and went back to eating in silence. After a while, he spoke again. "Mr. Leonardo, can I ask you a question?" "You can." "Why did you bring me here? You don't know me. I could be dangerous." Pedro said this without any irony, genuinely curious. Leonardo thought before answering. "Because when I looked at you in the park, I saw someone who lost everything and still keeps standing. Someone who shares imaginary food with a teddy bear so he won't be sad. And I realized that you are much stronger than I am. But you're rich. You can buy everything." "I can buy things, Pedro. But I can't buy what you have. You have hope. You have the will to live. I lost that." Pedro put the fork down on the table and looked at Leonardo for a long moment. Then he stood up, walked around the table, and hugged the businessman with all the strength his thin little arms could manage. "Then we help each other. I lend you my hope, and you lend me your warm house. Is that okay?" Leonardo hugged the boy he had met only a few hours earlier and cried. But this time it wasn't only sadness. It was relief. It was gratitude. It was the beginning of something he didn't yet fully understand. When they separated, Leonardo wiped his face and smiled. A small, fragile smile, but real. "That's okay, Pedro. That's very okay." That night, Pedro slept in a bed for the first time in months. Duke by his side, both covered with clean, soft sheets. Leonardo stood at the bedroom door for long minutes, watching the boy sleep. Something was changing inside him. Something important. And he had no idea that this was only the beginning. The following days transformed Leonardo's routine in an unexpected way. Pedro woke up early, always with Duke under his arm, and ran to the kitchen where Leonardo was already preparing breakfast. For the first time in months, the mansion had sounds of life. Laughter. Questions. Stories. But Leonardo noticed something disturbing. Every night, Pedro saved half of his dinner in napkins and hid it under the bed. "Why do you do that?" Leonardo asked on the fourth night. Pedro turned red. "Sorry. It's just that. I never know if I'll have food tomorrow. So I save it. Just in case." Leonardo's heart broke again. "Pedro, look at me. As long as you are here, there will always be food. Always. Do you understand?" Pedro nodded, but Leonardo realized that trust is not built with words. It is built with time. On Friday, Leonardo did something he hadn't done in a long time. He called his lawyer. "Roberto, I need you here. Urgently." 2 hours later, Roberto was sitting in the living room, adjusting his glasses while looking at Leonardo with curiosity. "I want to adopt a child." Roberto almost choked on his coffee. "Adopt? Leonardo, are you sure? After everything that happened." "Precisely because of everything that happened. I met a boy. Pedro. He has been here with me for 5 days. And for the first time since Amanda left, I feel like I have a reason to wake up in the morning." Leonardo, adoption is a long process. Bureaucratic. Especially for a single man. It can take more than a year. Then start today. Do whatever is necessary. Hire whoever is needed. I want to do this the right way. Roberto sighed, but picked up his tablet. We'll need documentation. Psychological evaluation. Visits from social workers. Reports. It's a difficult path. Amanda and I tried to have children for 3 years. We went through 7 fertility treatments. I spent fortunes on procedures. Nothing worked. And when she finally got pregnant naturally, Leonardo stopped, his voice breaking. Maybe this is the child I was meant to have. Maybe Amanda sent him to me. Roberto looked at his friend and saw true determination. All right. I'll start the process tomorrow. Meanwhile, Leonardo began making quiet changes to the mansion. He renovated one of the bedrooms, turning it into a perfect space for a child. He bought books, toys, clothes in the right size. But something even more important was happening inside him. He began researching children living on the streets. The numbers were shocking. Thousands of abandoned children, sleeping in parks, under bridges, in abandoned buildings. Children like Pedro, with stories of loss and survival. One night, while Pedro slept, Leonardo went down to his office. He opened his laptop and began to write. Page after page of a project that was taking shape in his mind. The next morning, he called Pedro to talk. I want to ask you something important. If you could help other children who live on the streets like you used to, would you help? Pedro's eyes lit up. Of course. There are many children in the park. Juliana, Carlinhos, little Anna. They're hungry too. They're cold too. I always wanted to help, but I didn't know how. Leonardo smiled. What if I told you that we can help all of them? How? I'm going to create a place. A big cozy house, where children who have nowhere to go can stay. With food every day. Warm beds. School. Affection. And you're going to help me create this place. You'll teach me what children need, because you know better than any adult. Pedro fell silent for a moment, processing. Really? Really? But first, I need to ask you something else. Leonardo knelt in front of the boy, bringing himself to the same height. Pedro, I would like to be your father. Officially. With papers, everything done properly. Would you let me be your father? Tears streamed down Pedro's face instantly. He threw himself into Leonardo's arms, sobbing. Can I call you Dad? You can. If you want to. Dad, Pedro repeated the word as if testing its sound. Dad. My dad. Leonardo held the boy tightly, feeling something heal inside him. It wasn't the end of the pain. Amanda would always be an absence. But it was the transformation of that pain into something greater. In the following weeks, Leonardo worked tirelessly. He bought a large piece of land on the outskirts of the city. He hired architects. He spoke with social workers, psychologists, educators. Pedro took part in all the meetings, giving serious and thoughtful opinions that surprised the adults. Children need a place to keep their treasures, Pedro said during a planning meeting. I used to keep colorful stones, bottle caps, things like that. We need a little corner that's ours. The architects wrote everything down. The project grew, shaped not only by Leonardo's vision, but by the real experience of someone who had lived on the streets. One night, Leonardo woke up and found Pedro sitting by the window, looking at the stars with Duke on his lap. Can't sleep. I'm thinking about the other children. They're still out there, cold. I wish everything were ready soon. Leonardo sat beside him. It will be. Very soon. And do you know what we're going to call the place? Pedro looked at him, curious. Amanda and Pedro Institute. In honor of the two people who taught me what truly matters in life. Pedro smiled through his tears and rested his head on Leonardo's shoulder. Two broken hearts, healing together, about to create something that would change hundreds of lives. The plan was in motion. And nothing would ever be the same again. 6 months later, Leonardo was in his office when he received the call that would change everything. Leonardo, it's Roberto. I have news. His heart raced. Tell me. The adoption was approved. Pedro is officially your son. Leonardo hung up the phone and stood still for a moment, letting that information sink in. Then he ran up the stairs to Pedro's room, where he was doing his homework. Pedro. Pedro. The boy lifted his head, startled. What is it, Dad? Even after months, that word still melted Leonardo's heart. It's official. The papers are done. You're my real son now. Pedro Ferreira. Pedro dropped his pencil and jumped out of the chair, running into Leonardo's arms. They stayed embraced for long minutes, crying with happiness. Is Duke part of the family now too? Pedro asked, smiling through the tears. Duke too. He's part of us. But the joy of that day was only the beginning. 1 week later, Leonardo received another call. This time, from the engineer in charge of the construction. Mr. Ferreira, the institute is ready. We can hold the opening whenever you wish. Leonardo looked at Pedro, who was playing in the garden with Duke. Pedro. Come here, champ. The boy ran to him. Yes, Dad. The institute is finished. Shall we go get your friends? Pedro's eyes filled with tears again. Now? Really? Now? Really? Let's go together. That afternoon, Leonardo and Pedro returned to the municipal park. The same place where everything had begun. Leonardo parked the car in the same spot as 6 months earlier, and the two of them walked to the bench beneath the old tree. There they were. Juliana, a 9-year-old girl with a torn coat. Carlinhos, a 6-year-old boy holding a broken toy car. Anna, a child of only 5, sleeping in a cardboard box. Pedro ran to them. Guys. I'm back. Juliana looked at him, suspicious. Pedro? You disappeared. We thought something bad had happened to you. Something good happened. Really good. This is my dad, Leonardo. And he made a house for us. For all of us. The children looked at Leonardo with fear and hope mixed together. He knelt in front of them, at the same height. It's true. I built a place where you'll have beds, food, school, and where you'll be safe. Always. Do you want to see it? Anna woke up, rubbing her eyes. Is there food there? Leonardo smiled, remembering Pedro's first question. There's food. There will always be food. Carlinhos squeezed the broken toy car. And can I take my toys? You can take everything that's important to you. And we'll get new toys too. Juliana was still suspicious. Why are you doing this? Nobody does anything for free. Pedro stepped closer to her. He's different. I was scared at first too. But he's for real. He adopted me. I have a dad now. And you can have a family too. A tear rolled down Juliana's face. Family. Leonardo nodded. Family. All of you. The Amanda and Pedro Institute will be your home. And we'll look for other children too. No one will sleep in the cold anymore if it depends on us. It was Carlinhos who broke the silence. He stood up, still holding the toy car, and walked toward Leonardo. He extended his dirty little hand. I'll go. I trust Pedro. Anna stood up too, running to hug Leonardo's leg. I want to go too. I want food. Juliana was the last one. She looked at Pedro for a long moment, then at Leonardo. Finally, she nodded. Okay. Let's go. Leonardo felt his chest tighten. Those 3 children were placing their lives, their fears, their hopes in his hands. It was an enormous responsibility. And he was ready. They walked toward the car, but Leonardo stopped. Wait here for a moment. He walked to the bench beneath the tree. The same bench where he had cried alone 6 months earlier. Where he had met Pedro. Where his life had completely changed. He touched the worn wood of the bench and whispered, "Thank you, Amanda. You sent him to me, didn't you? You knew what I needed. I'll take care of him. I'll take care of all of them. I promise." A gentle breeze passed over him at that moment, as if it were an answer. When he returned to the car, the 4 children were waiting for him. Pedro was holding Anna's hand. Carlinhos was showing the toy car to Juliana. For lives that were about to change completely. Leonardo drove to the institute. When the gate opened and they saw the immense, colorful, welcoming building, with a huge playground in the garden, the children fell completely silent. Is it here? Juliana whispered. It is. Your new home. Pedro got out of the car and opened his arms. Come on. Let's see everything. The children ran across the grass, shouting with joy. Leonardo stood still, watching. 6 months earlier, he had been a man dead inside. Today, he was alive. Completely alive. And that was only the beginning. The Amanda and Pedro Institute would receive dozens, then hundreds of children. Each with their own story. Each in need of love. And Leonardo discovered that the more love you give, the more love you have to give. The boy who asked if he was hungry too had satisfied the deepest hunger Leonardo carried. The hunger for purpose. 3 years later, Leonardo was on the Institute's veranda watching the sunset. The place that had once been just a project on paper now housed 52 children. 52 stories of overcoming. 52 transformed lives. Pedro, now 10 years old, was running around the garden organizing a soccer game with the other children. Duke, even more worn out than before, still followed him everywhere. Some things never change. And some don't need to change. Dad. Come play with us. Pedro shouted, waving. Leonardo smiled. I'm coming, son. Son. That word still brought tears to his eyes every time he heard it. He had never imagined he would become a father this way. But now he couldn't imagine life any other way. Juliana approached, holding a sheet of paper. At 12 years old, she had become one of the best students at school. Mr. Leonardo, I finished the essay. Could you read it? Leonardo took the paper. The title read, The Day My Life Changed. As he read, his eyes filled with tears. Juliana described that day in the park 3 years earlier. She described the fear, the distrust, and then the hope. She ended by saying that today she wanted to be a social worker to help other children the way she had been helped. It's perfect, Ju. You'll achieve everything you dream of. She smiled and ran back to play. Carlinhos ran past, now 9 years old, still holding that broken toy car. Leonardo had offered dozens of new toy cars, but the boy refused them all. This one is special. It was the only toy I had when I lived on the street. It reminds me of where I came from. Leonardo understood. Just as Pedro never let go of Duke, Carlinhos never let go of the car. They were anchors. Reminders that they survived. That they are strong. Anna, now 8 years old, was on the swing. The girl who had arrived at only 5 years old, scared and hungry, now laughed loudly, healthy and happy. She had been adopted by one of the institute's staff members, but she still visited often. Leonardo went back inside the building. In the hallway, there was a huge mural with photos. Every child who had passed through the institute had a photo there. Some still lived there. Others had already been adopted. But all of them were part of that family. He stopped in front of a specific photo. It was from the inauguration day. He, Pedro, Juliana, Carlinhos, and Anna in front of the gate. All smiling. The beginning of everything. Next to that photo, there was another one. Amanda smiling, with her hand on her belly. Leonardo gently touched the glass. We did it, my love. Not the way we planned. But we did it. You gave me Pedro. And he brought me back to life. He gave me purpose. Roberto, the lawyer, entered the hallway. Now he was also the institute's legal director, working voluntarily. Leonardo, we have 3 more children arriving tomorrow. Siblings. They were found living in an abandoned building. Leonardo nodded. We've prepared the rooms. Pedro will help welcome them. He's good at that. He learned from the best, Roberto smiled. That night, during the collective dinner in the large dining hall, Leonardo watched all those children eating, talking, laughing. He remembered Pedro asking if he was hungry too. The answer he had discovered was yes. He had been hungry. But not for food. He had been hungry for meaning. For love. For family. For purpose. And he found all of that by feeding others who were hungry too. Pedro stood up and asked for everyone's attention. Guys, I want to thank my dad. 3 years ago, I was alone in the park. Cold, hungry, scared. He could have just walked past. But he didn't. He stopped. He saw me. And he changed my life. Now, because of him, 52 children have a home. Let's make a toast. All the children raised their cups of juice. To Dad Leonardo. And to Mom Amanda who's in heaven. Leonardo had to wipe his eyes. He stood up and hugged Pedro tightly. No, son. The toast is for you. You saved me first. You showed me that pain can turn into love. That loss can turn into gain. That a broken heart can be mended by the hands of a child. Later, when everyone was already asleep, Leonardo returned to the office. He opened the drawer and took out an old yellowed napkin. It was the first napkin where Pedro had saved food, 3 years earlier. Leonardo had kept it as a reminder. On that napkin, he wrote something new with a golden pen. The deepest hunger is not that of the stomach. It is that of the heart. And it is only satisfied when we learn that love given is love multiplied. Thank you, Pedro, for teaching me this. He placed the napkin in a frame and hung it on the office wall, next to the Entrepreneur of the Year diploma he had recently received for his social projects. The diploma didn't matter. The napkin did. Because there was the true story. The story of a man who had everything and nothing at the same time. And of a boy who had nothing and everything at the same time. And when the two met, both discovered that hunger and abundance are relative. It depends on what you are measuring. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Comment below what you thought and which city or country you're watching us from. Your participation is very important for us to continue sharing stories that touch the heart. Leonardo turned off the office light and went upstairs to the bedroom. He walked down the hallway and peeked into Pedro's room. The boy was sleeping, hugging Duke, a smile on his face. And Leonardo slept in peace for the first time in years. Because he finally understood that life is not about what we lose. It is about what we do with the empty space that